Today's Friday, Parashat Balak. We're learning from Chok Israel and we're learning the Mussar. Al ya'amod adam im melamdei tinokot, pen yevatlem bidvarav. A person should not stand next to the teacher or Rabbi who's teaching students Torah and speak to him, because then what will happen? He will cause him to neglect his work. He will not be able to be teaching the children in those few moments that he will be involved in discussion with that person. And you should learn this from Abba Chilkiah, who was the grandson of Choniam Agel. He was a very, very big tzaddik who was able to pray for rain, and anytime he prayed for rain, the rain would fall whenever it was needed. And Gemara brings a story where he was so careful that he was not careful. He was a person of great scruples, and he didn't want to answer. Like it's brought in Masechet Ta'anit, when these two rabbis came to him, two sages came to speak to him, and they just said, "Hello, good morning, how are you?" And he didn't want to answer them. Why? Because he was involved at the time in work in the field. He was hired as an employee by someone, and was he to stop and answer them, "I'm doing well," and talk to them, even if it was a brief conversation, just hello, how are you doing? He refrained from doing that because it would be like stealing from his employer. And by the way, there obviously today, I heard there are programs to track employees' time on the computer, and as they're at work at the office and they get involved in all sorts of extracurricular activities, whether they're going on eBay or Facebook or whatever, they are actually, in a way, stealing from their employer. Even if it's a moment here and a moment there, when you add 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the afternoon, and a few minutes here and there, in the course of a month, it could add up to 3-4 hours very easily. And apparently there are large corporations that are taken advantage by the employees by them using company time on personal activity, and it could amount to a large sum of money. When if you have thousands of people that work for a corporation, in the course of the year, it could add up to millions. So, but on an individual level, a person should have a clarity of rules with his employer. If the employer allows up to a certain amount, then fine. But if the time at work should be restricted to only activity that is dedicated to work, then a person should be careful not to use that for personal, because it would be like gezer, it could be like stealing. Now he says here, when a person is teaching Torah and you come and stand and disturb the course of the lesson, that would be even more serious than a regular situation of misappropriating time that a person is being paid for. And he brings a pasuk here from Yirmiyahu, that cursed is a person who does the work of heaven deviously. He is involved in lechet shamayim, in work of kodesh, in terms of teaching Torah or similar activity, and he uses the time in a devious way, in a way that is not what he should be doing at that moment. He says here, a person who does not need the support of the community and takes from your community charity, at the end of his days, he will not pass away without really and truly needing the support of the community. In other words, a person should not take advantage of charity. There are situations where people could afford certain things, yet they come and ask the community to help them. And if they're taking advantage of the community in that sense, they will eventually come to that state of affairs where they will truly need the support. In the same way, a person who pretends to be lame or pretends to be blind in order to beg, he might be wearing very dark glasses and pretending that he's blind and he needs help, he needs support. Such a person will not leave the world without this actually happening to him. In other words, he's pretending to have a certain kind of handicap, and it's not true. It's just him pretending to be able to fool people into helping him. Well, that pretending will turn into reality, where that person will need that support or will be in that state of handicap that he's pretending to be. So this is the Mussar for today. So careful we have to be with our activity, whether it is at work, to be careful that we use the time that we're being paid for what it is, rather than taking it for personal use, or whether it is the funds of the community, that the person should not use them for support if he really doesn't need to, and not to pretend anything that a person does not have, because he might come to that situation. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen, and Shabbat Shalom. To remind you also, by the way, that Sunday is a fast day, the 17th of Tammuz. The fast day actually is Shabbat. The 17th of Tammuz is Shabbat, but we don't fast on Shabbat. For the 17th of Tammuz, we observe it on Sunday. Fast begins at 4:16 in the morning in our zip code here, 91607, and ends at 8:44 in the evening. If you wanted to have breakfast before 4:16 in the morning, you could. You just have to make sure that before you go to sleep on Saturday night, that you should have that in mind, that you're planning to get up in the morning before 4:16 and to have breakfast. And that way you can have the fast after having eaten at a time that would be allowed before dawn, which nowadays dawn in our area is 4:16 in the morning. Again, Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen, and Shabbat Shalom.